trending is better than anybody in the world. I've been trending my whole life. From the day I was born, I've been trending.
I like the good publicity and I like the bad publicity. It all plays.
I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
22 days in a row or something on the cover of the tabloids. It's never been anything like that.
Hello, you're watching India Today Global with me, Shudha Mitra.
I'm Shashank Mathur.
And the big story that we're tracking for you today is about Donald Trump's inauguration. So in a few hours from now, he's going to be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States, and the event is going to mark his big return to the White House. So today we'll take a look what his first day would look like, what Trump 2.0 holds for the world, and what are the events that have been lined up for him and the executive orders that he's going to sign after he's sworn in. So Shank, beginning with, it's a big day, a lot of events have been lined up for President-elect Donald Trump.
Right.
So just, tell us what the day would look like for President today.
No, absolutely. So it's going to be a fairly interesting and a long day for President Donald Trump. Basically, generally what would happen is that the president would have his swearing-in ceremony, and he would make an inaugural address, and he'd make it out in public, in front of the general public. Unfortunately, that is not something that is happening this year because of freezing temperatures. This is also not the first time it has happened. It's happened in 1985 as well, when Ronald Reagan was sworn in for his second term as president. But it's extremely cold right now in the United States. If you can see some of our reporters, hopefully we'll have some of them like Rohit Sharma for you. They're very nicely done in with their coats and so on. It's very cold there. So, to prevent any problems for the viewing public, what's happening is that the swearing-in ceremony will take place around noon American time, and it will be a swearing-in of the Vice President J.D. Vance as well as the President of the United States. It will be happening inside the Capitol Rotunda. It's a very fantastic building, a very historic building of the United States, and that is where the swearing-in ceremony will take place. The President Donald Trump will then give a speech which is his inaugural address, which is something that is very, very closely watched. If you might remember the famous quote from John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That's actually from his inaugural address. It seemed to be a very important statement of the president's priorities and the tone he wants to set for the country. So that is what's going to happen in terms of the swearing in and the inaugural address, which everyone will be tracking extremely closely. Then you have a number of key events. You have a luncheon for the leaders who are visiting, as well as for congressional leaders, the elected representatives of the various political parties. You also have a parade which will take place, which will basically feature military and civilian units, so on and so forth, sort of saluting the new commander-in-chief. There will be a review of military troops by the president and the vice president, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. So it's a packed day, and of course then the president is expected to go in and embark on what is expected to be a very, very busy first day in office, which Ishita is of course also going to be covering, but he's going to be passing a lot of executive orders and so on and so forth. So not just ceremony, but also a very, very busy day for Donald Trump.
Exactly, big day for Donald Trump today, and as you mentioned that his inaugural address is something that there's a lot of anticipation for, and this will mark his introduction to what Trump 2.0 would look like.
Right.
What will make this day more interesting is the guest list right now. We know that apart from political leaders in the US, a lot of world leaders have been invited for the event. So if you could just, tell us who all are invited and who all are going to be there for Trump's inauguration.
Right. So one of the big attendees at this point in time that we know, of course, apart from political leaders at home, as well as billionaires like Elon Musk, who have been very, very prominent supporters of Donald Trump, and the TikTok CEO, if you're tracking that story, who's going to be at the swearing in. So those are important leaders who are going to be there. But really, from the world leadership perspective, of course, there's India's S. Jaishankar, India's foreign minister. Something that we watch very closely is China's Vice President Han Zheng will be there. He, of course, the reporting around the time was that Donald Trump had invited Xi Jinping, the president of China. Unfortunately, Xi Jinping did not come. But what you're having is the vice president of China coming in, Han Zheng. So that's going to be
also very rare.
It is rare. It is important, and he's already met with the vice president like J.D. Vance. So they're getting a top-level meeting off the bat, because again, Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have already spoken on the phone. They've been very clear that they want to, or at least Donald Trump has been very clear that he wants to fix the relationship with China, or see what the two sides can work together on: trade, fentanyl, tariffs, so on and so forth, seeing things like that. So that's going to be important. Also, lots of conversation about people from around the region, for example, from Latin America, conversation about leaders like Nayib Bukele, the leader of El Salvador, as well as Javier Milei of Argentina. There's some conversation about Giorgia Meloni coming in from Italy, and so on and so forth. So it's a fairly wide-ranging guest list from Eastern Europe to Southern Europe to India to China to and of course you also have the foreign minister of Japan and the foreign minister of Australia. So what you're going to have is also a quad foreign ministers meeting. It's expected to happen on the sidelines of the Trump inauguration. That's what S. Jaishankar is there for as well. So it should be interesting. That's basically the top guest list off the top of my mind.
Exactly. What was supposed to be a democratic ritual for the home crowd is now turning into a global event with the guest list, widening up to including foreign leaders as well. So my last question, we've talked about what's on his agenda, what his day would look like, what's the guest list like. So just, let's just briefly also cover what Trump 2.0 would look like for the world, his policy on Ukraine war, Russia, India and China. So if you could just summarize that for us.
Right. So I think right off the bat, the first day is expected to be extremely busy in terms of what he's going to do. A lot of conversation about there are. Let's go topic by topic. Of course, he's expected to authorize immigration action in the sense that of allowing much more firm. Deportation.
Yeah, he's going to start the largest deportation
exactly of
undocumented
migrants. So that is something that he's expected to authorize in a big way. He's expected to authorize he's railed against diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government and so on. So he's going to pass certain orders pushing back against the tide of some of these initiatives, DEI as it's called, very strongly. He's going to pass some executive orders on energy as well. That is something that is expected to happen as well. So energy, immigration, as well as some of the other legislative priorities that Donald Trump has, that is going to be I think setting the tone of what Donald Trump wants to achieve in that first day in office, and also what he wants to achieve more generally. I think he's already said that we're going to be taking very, very quick action to repeal some of the policies that the Biden administration had put in. He's of course going to have to put a little meat to the bones of that proposal. What exactly he wants to talk about and what exactly he wants to push. Of course, for example, back in 2017, 2018, he was talking about healthcare reform a lot because back then what was in vogue was doing away with President Obama's signature healthcare initiative, Obamacare. That has not featured anywhere in the conversation. So you can say that that is not necessarily as big a priority as some of these other things like immigration, like the economy, like tackling the situation on the borders that is facing with millions of migrants trying to come into the United States on the southern border, especially relations with Canada as well as other close countries like Mexico, China. So you're already seeing in this first inaugural ceremony, in terms of the people he has invited, as well as the actions that we think he is likely to take on the basis of the reporting that we're seeing, that actually he's very much setting the priorities for what he wants to achieve in the rest of his presidency.
All right, well, those are the few factors that he is going to take into consideration when he takes office. You have border control, you have immigration, you also have tariff policy. Also, what we're seeing right now is that his focus is more going to be on his domestic audience than international players. And well, that's it from us. Thank you so much for watching this live with us. Stay tuned to India Today Global, where we'll continue to track Donald Trump's inauguration.